When you insult your fans, is that really a good thing to do in a Scream movie? Hi Scream Geeks, I saw Scream 7 2 days ago. I've given myself some time to collect my thoughts because if I had just posted this review the day that I saw the movie, then there would have been even more negative things to say about it. But I've given myself some time, and now I'm ready to review it properly. This movie has been so anticipated, and is just so disappointing. So, let's get right into it, Scream Geeks. And first, we're going to go over the few positives of this movie. By the way, the first half of this video will be spoiler-free. At the end of the video, I will discuss spoilers, but I will let you know before I dive into that territory so that if you haven't seen the movie, you can click off. I'm not going to give you the fluff and filler, you know what Scream 7 follows. It follows Sydney and her daughter in the town of Pines Grove, Indiana. The first positive I would like to discuss in this movie are the few characters who I actually cared about in this movie. Those characters being Sydney Prescott, Gale Weathers, Chad, Mindy, and a new character named Lucas. You might be asking, where's Sydney's daughter Tatum on that list, Scream Geek? Let me tell you, Tatum's personality is shallower than a 2-foot deep kiddie pool. You know how deep her personality goes? It goes so deep that she's like, I'm Sydney Prescott's daughter. That's about as deep as it goes. Personality does not apply to this character. This is not an insult to the actress in the way she was portrayed, it's just the way she was written. And a lot of this movie falls victim to poor writing, but I need to talk about the positives first. Gale Weathers in this movie might be the best she's ever been in this whole franchise. I mean, you can see that she's clearly traumatized throughout this whole movie, especially in one particular scene in Act 2. And you can see that she's really struggling, and it just makes the character feel so much more real, and I absolutely loved her performance. Sydney Prescott is great as usual. Nothing too standout about her, but it was really great to see her as the main character again. Chad and Mindy were so funny. I'm so glad they were in this movie. It didn't really feel like they had a reason to be in this movie, but they were here, and I was all for it. Another positive about this movie is the kills. Holy crap. The kills in this movie were amazing and the most gruesome in the whole franchise. My favorite kill, I am not spoiling it, but it is the first kill after the opening scene. And it is so good. It is like genuinely like the most well-directed scene in the movie. It's just, I'll put it up there with like top 5 Scream kills easily. It was so good. And then there's another kill in Act 2, which is borderline on Terrifier territory in terms of how gruesome it was. Now, Terrifier movies might be for some people, they're not for me. I can take gore up to a certain extent, and this movie was like on the edge between Scream and Terrifier. Another thing that was really, really good about this movie is the character who we all know is returning in some capacity, which I will not spoil until the end of this video. Stu Macher. He was great, and that's all I'm gonna say because I am not spoiling. Another positive is a scene that was in most of the trailers, and that is the house attack scene where Ghostface attacks the wall. That scene is it's so good. It's definitely not one of the best Scream fight scenes, but it's a really good, solid scene, and I enjoyed it. Okay, now that we've gotten literally every single positive out of the way, let's get into the negatives. The first major negative of this movie I can think of is the friend group. These are like the nicest, most harmless group of kids I've ever seen in a Scream movie. I did not for 1 second suspect that any of them could be Ghostface. And they just felt so underdeveloped. Like, only one of them had personality, and that was Lucas, who is the one new character who I genuinely liked in this movie. He's a true crime junkie, he's obsessed with Sydney Prescott, kind of, but he's also just a really sweet guy, and he's actually a good character in this movie, and I really enjoyed him. The other characters just boil down to this broad personality that they're portraying, and that's it. It doesn't go deeper than that. Like, Tatum's boyfriend, Ben, he likes messing around with AI and stuff, and that's as deep as that goes. I guess it goes a little deeper because he loves Tatum and stuff and love, but you know, whatever. This is not to say the actors were bad. Again, most of this is because of bad writing, which I'm shocked at because Kevin Williamson basically wrote most of the script and Nev Campbell helped with it. I thought this would be better, but this is the most underdeveloped friend group in any Scream movie. I didn't feel any emotions when any of them died whatsoever. Like, it feels like they're just meatbags, just introduced to be killed and no other reason aside from Lucas. Another negative is the very, very weird pacing of this movie. I don't know how it worked because I'm not a film writer, but the pacing just felt so off in this movie. It felt weird. Like, sometimes it would be fast, sometimes it would be slow and drawn out. And to go along with this, one of my biggest negatives with this movie is there was no tension in, like, any of the Ghostface scenes, like, ever. I felt no tension when Ghostface was on screen, except for maybe the house scene and maybe one scene near the end of Act 2. That was all the tension I felt in this movie. The opening scene, no tension at all. There was no tension in, like, most of the Ghostface scenes. And, like, I still feel tension in scenes in Scream movies when I rewatch them. And I've just felt so much tension, even though I know what's gonna happen, I can feel the tension in those scenes. There is just next to no tension here, and I don't know why that is. Another negative. Roger L. Jackson is hardly in this movie. He has, hold on, let me count. 1, 2, 3, 3.5 technically phone calls. Because you hear his voice near the end a little bit, but that's not really a phone call. And this is the least threatening Ghostface dialogue I've ever heard in a Scream movie. Like, it's laughable. It sounds like it's something straight out of a Stab movie. Roger L. Jackson, of course, does great, but the dialogue is just so cheesy that he has to deliver. It's, oh my gosh, it genuinely hurt me how bad and how little the dialogue for Ghostface was in this movie. Another negative thing about this movie, Joel McHale. Now listen, I don't hate Joel McHale, okay? I like him, he's a funny guy. This was not the role for him. Okay, he could be in the Scream franchise in some other capacity. But as Sidney Prescott's husband, who's supposed to be a police officer, I did not buy him as a police officer even remotely. He just didn't give off police officer vibes. He was just walking around like the smart, goofy guy Joel McHale is. The film tried to make him serious, but he had so few lines and was in the film so little that honestly, he felt like one of the more underdeveloped characters of this film, and also he just felt goofy to me. Another negative, the third act. That's all I'm gonna say about that until we get to the spoiler section. And another negative, probably the biggest sin this movie commits, is it insults its own fans for coming up with theories about things. I'm sorry, at what point did Kevin Williamson say, hey, you know what's a good idea? Let's insult all the people who think this is the case. Like, the worst thing you can do in the movie is insult your own fans. That is just beyond crazy to me. So what would I give this movie? Honestly, it wasn't the worst movie. It's not near as bad as people online are making it sound. It had some really solid emotional scenes between Sydney and Tatum and Sydney and Gale, and some really nice heartfelt shoutouts. But all in all, I would give this movie a 7 or a 6.5 out of 10. This is not a terrible Scream movie. It's not a great or even good Scream movie. It's an okay Scream movie. And this is, honestly for me, the first Scream movie that's just been okay. So I'll give this a 6.5 or a 7 out of 10, and now we're going to get into spoiler territory. I'm talking major spoilers. So click off this video right now if you do not want to be spoiled, and then you can come back after you've seen the movie. If you want to be spoiled or you've already seen the movie, then welcome. Because here are the spoilers, and here's my biggest gripe with this movie. The killers. This is the worst third act in any Scream movie. The worst killer reveal and the worst killers in any Scream movie. Oh my gosh. How did Kevin Williamson get this so wrong? The man wrote the original killer reveal. And now Ghostface is just 3 random people? One of them doesn't have a single line of dialogue before he's revealed as Ghostface. He's just hit by a truck and then unmasked. All he did before he was revealed was he got some coffee from Sydney and they walked out. That's all he did. He was an escaped mental patient with 0 speaking lines, and he was killed by Gale at the end of Act 1. Ugh, that's bad, and I would have been able to overlook that if the other 2 killers were at least good. No, they weren't. First of all, I want to talk about a killer who could have been so amazing but was so underutilized, and that is Ethan Embry's character, Marco. Now, he is an orderly at the insane hospital where Stu was believed to be held. Spoilers here, Stu is not alive. Stu is dead. But Ethan Embry can act like a psycho. I've seen clips of him from, I don't know if it was a TV show or a movie, but he can act really psychotic. And he does nothing in the third act, basically. He has a few lines once he's revealed as the killer. And then the other killer, who is far less interesting than him to me, Anna Camp, takes over and just does the craziest, weirdest monologue I've ever heard in a Scream movie. Marco could have been such an interesting killer, but we don't even find out his motivation. Ghostface always has to have a motive and has to monologue about it. That's how these movies go. And to have a Ghostface where we never find out his motive and he has like maybe 3 to 5 lines once he's revealed, that is so terrible because I know Ethan Embry is so good at acting, but he has felt so underutilized. And once the whole third act fight starts, he dies immediately. Sidney shoots him in the head and that's the end of him. We don't find out anything about his character. He could have been so cool. And Anna Camp, don't even get me started on her having the stupidest motivation known to this franchise. She was an obsessed Sidney fan who killed her husband after reading Sidney's self-help book. And, you know, good for her there. I mean, killing husbands is not good, but abusive husbands, they're terrible. And I felt for her a little bit there. But then she just got crazy, and when Sidney didn't go to New York, she checked herself into an insane asylum and then decided to kill everyone. She even killed her own son, because, to quote her, he was too much like his father. What? Honestly, I just think Anna Camp's character boils down to her being insane and having no real motivation, because the motive that she has is very thin and makes 0 sense. These are the 3 worst Ghostfaces to ever exist in this franchise, and you can quote me on that. I would say every single one of them is a D tier at best. And Marco could have been so much cooler. Anna Camp could have been so much cooler. The insane asylum patient could have been so much cooler if they actually had something to do. And also, another big gripe about this movie with Ghostface. These killers are in the movie very little before they are revealed. They're just thrown in 1 or 2 scenes before they're revealed so they can pop up and be Ghostface. I talked to my parents after we saw the movie, and they both guessed who both of the killers were because they just felt so randomly inserted into the movie. It's like Margot was just in 1 scene, and Jessica was just in like 2 or 3 scenes before she was revealed. That's not what Ghostface is meant to be. Ghostface is meant to be throughout the movie. He's meant to be someone who is throughout the movie before he is unmasked. So that way, when it's unmasked, you can feel the betrayal and you can feel genuinely shocked. And another thing about this movie, it insults its fans. Stu Macher is revealed to be dead in this movie. I still believe he could personally be alive based on some evidence presented in the movie, but that's a video for another day. But Ethan Embry says, and I quote, I mean, you didn't actually think it was Stu, did you? I mean, because that'd be dumb. Stu's dead. I mean, alive in spirit, but dead. That is directly from the movie. That is a direct quote. He calls the fans dumb for theorizing about Stu being alive. And sure, some theories might not be the best, but that doesn't mean you go and insult your fan base. That is so stupid. Why would you insult your fans, Scream? You think Kevin Williamson would know better than this? Stu Truthers, I do not think you are stupid. Okay, I was on the fence about Stu being alive. I was fine with it going either way. I just wanted Matthew Lillard back in any capacity. I didn't care if that was AI or not. And Matthew Lillard did so great in this movie, but he was in it so little. All of the Stu Macher FaceTime calls in this movie were so amazing, and you could tell he was genuinely happy to be there, and he brought that same energy he had in the first movie, and maybe even more. There are definitely a lot more funny Stu lines in this movie that fans can look forward to. But he was just so underutilized. He could have been in it so much more. And also, there is one little positive I want to talk about that I couldn't talk about in the pre-spoiler section. And a lot of people think about this as a negative, but I actually really liked it. Near the end, before the killers are revealed, Sydney's in her house, and they've set up an AI video in her house of dead killers taunting her. People say this is stupid fan service. I agree, it is fan service, but I loved it. We get to see Nancy Loomis, we get to see Roman Bridger, we get to see Dewey Riley. Even if they're in AI forms, it's the actual actors playing them. And it warmed my heart to see me again. I got chills when I saw that scene in theaters. Like, I knew these people weren't alive, but I got chills. I loved that scene so much. All in all, in Scream 7, unfortunately, the negatives they far outweigh the positives. With the worst killer reveal this franchise has ever seen, and it's the dumbest ghost faces this franchise has ever seen, and also just some of the dumbest decisions in general this franchise has ever made. What did you think about this movie, Scream Geeks? You might not agree with me, that is completely okay. Am I gonna rewatch this movie? Yes, absolutely. I believe if I rewatch it again, I might like it a little bit more now that I know everything that happens, but it's definitely, probably, unfortunately, one of the worst Scream movies ever made. So let me know what you think down in the comments below, and until next time, toodles!